An Unexpected Future by A-Series on AO3. Episode 17. Chapter 17. So, I have this problem. Aizawa knew Hargreaves had a project. He could see it in the focused glint of the boy's eyes, and in the determinate set of his shoulders. Aizawa should probably be concerned about what exactly this project was, but frankly, if he were in the kid's shoes, he would have latched on to whatever project first fell into his lap after such a large emotional breakdown, too. The door to Hargreaves' room clicked open, and Aizawa instinctively turned that way, accidentally making eye contact with Hargreaves as he quietly crept out of his room. Hargreaves rose, staring Aizawa down before squaring his shoulders and heading towards the kitchen. It surprised Aizawa how little Hargreaves used his quirk at home when he didn't have any problem using it on school property. He still uses it, of course, but just as often he chose to walk, and Aizawa wasn't sure that he had chosen to do the same with that kind of quirk. He supposed Hargreaves could be saving it for emergencies, but more likely, do you need anything? Aizawa almost jumped, not having heard Hargreaves sneak up on him, and by the twitch of the boy's mouth, he knew it. Could you turn on the radio? Aizawa asked, remaining his metaphorical footing and nodding to the radio on the shelf. It's already on the right station. It wasn't like Aizawa couldn't do it, with both his arms still in cast. He couldn't wait to get those damn things off. Sure. Hargreaves disappeared in a quiet but notable aloof, and reappeared in front of the radio with a swah. Children raised in abusive homes often find ways to not draw attention to themselves, including memorizing floor plans and every creak or squeaky spot on those plans. Hargreaves probably went above and beyond even that, having been trained in stealth since he was a child. If he made his quirk made the same noise every time he teleported, then it would only stand to reason that there would be times where it would be disadvantageous to use. It's only logical to train your body to compensate for a quirk drawback, after all. The radio crackled to life, clearing up as it connected to Put Your Hands Up station. Hisashi's voice was nowhere to be heard, though, and nor were any of his usual rock numbers. Instead, the station was playing old American classics, and Aizawa saw Hargreaves' eyes widen in recognition. Hargreaves nodded his head along to a couple of the beats, even mouthing along to a couple of the words, before he remembered himself. He quickly turned away to hide a blush and cleared his throat before asking, Is that good? Yeah, Aizawa said, watching him. Thanks. Whatever. Five teleported back to the kitchen. Hisashi left you lunch in the fridge. Aizawa looked over his shoulders from the spot of the couch to face the kitchen. There's one on a plate. Just warm it up. I see. Hargreaves called back. Looks like there's a drink in here for you, too. Do you want it? Sure. Aizawa got up and made his way to the kitchen, keeping an eye on Hargreaves as he heated up what he needed to. Thankfully, Hisashi seemed to have trained him how to use the microwave well enough. What's that look for? Hargreaves asked, raising an eyebrow. I'm just glad you're not burning the house down, Aizawa said honestly. I'm not that incompetent, Hargreaves proclaimed, his face flushing. Do you want your drink or not? Hargreaves rose after he said it, paling and realizing what he said to an authority figure. Relax, it's fine, Aizawa assured him before he could start overthinking things. I'm pretty sure you're already doing better than some of my students. Hargreaves huffed a laugh. Are they still going to be heroes? They have time to grow. Hargreaves frowned at that, looking lost in thought as his dinner heated up. What if I was your student? He asked, right before the timer dinged. Aizawa raised an eyebrow under his bandages. What do you mean? You can't help me because my father's in the past, right? But what if it was happening right now? What would you do? We'd get you and your siblings out of that situation as soon as possible, Aizawa said easily. Nice try. Hargreaves smirked, bringing both of their meals to the table. But that's a lot easier said than done. I want details. Aizawa regarded Hargreaves carefully. Was there some sort of play here, or was he trying to figure out some potential options for him and his family? It depends on the exact situation, then, Aizawa said, following him to the table. You haven't told me much about it. My father is a powerful man with enough money to own a country or two. He's got connection in places just as high. When Quirks first appeared, he bought my siblings and me from our birth parents, and used us all to fight crime ever since. While his training is out of the public eye, the public has absolutely seen the results, with people happily buying merchandise of us and the news following our exploits. Also, if it's relevant, we have a generated, altered, sentient, and talking chimpanzee butler who is deathly loyal to our father, and we were raised by an android mother. Well, that certainly sounded like several ethical violations, but Aizawa didn't know enough about America law to know for sure what was and wasn't legal, especially so early into the discovery of quirks. Are you talking about our current time, or where you're from? Current time. You could pretend he's from Japan for this hypothetical, too. That made things easier for Aizawa, though now he was even more confused as to why Hargreaves was offering all this up now. So far, he'd been fairly tight-lipped about his situation with Aizawa and Asashi. Even if Hargreaves wanted to use any of this advice after it goes back to his own time, the further they got from Hargreaves' own situation in this hypothetical, the harder it would be to act on any of the advice. Aizawa didn't mind answering his question, but did this have something to do with that project that Hargreaves has invested himself into lately? Or was this some sort of test for Aizawa and UA? First, we determined whether or not you or your siblings were in immediate danger. If so, we would do what we could to make you safe in the short term. Long term, we would need to build a case against your father. I'm not going to lie. It would be a difficult case to prove, because the seriousness of the accusation and how high profile your father would be. We would need a lot of evidence to prove what he's done. Even less high profile case can be difficult to win, but Aizawa wanted to stress this. That doesn't mean it's impossible. Oftentimes, the best thing you could do, feeling overwhelmed and difficult, but that's all the more reasons to do them. As long as we're careful and gather the right allies as we build our case, I think we could do it. Hargreaves watched carefully as Aizawa spoke, paying attention to every shift of movement. Aizawa wasn't expressive on a normal day, let alone covered in bandages, so he couldn't blame Hargreaves for doing what he could to read Aizawa. Would Principal Nedzu help if I asked? He wouldn't be a good principal if he didn't, Aizawa pointed out. That doesn't answer my question. No, Aizawa supposed it didn't. I can't imagine him not taking a personal interest in your case. He already has. Hargreaves hummed and started eating his lunch. Why all the questions? Aizawa asked, slipping his smoothie closer so he could take a sip. Just curious, Five said, easily with a shrug. Everyone gets mad at my situation, but it's hard to think you guys would be able to do anything, even without time travel getting in the way. Do you think exposing to the public what he's done to us would do anything? Or would we just be whiny, lying brats? You said the public already knows you and your siblings. Just as the Umbrella Academy, they act like we're apparently full-formed out of a comic book able to fight, and don't really think about what we had to do to get to that point. Aizawa took a deep breath, thinking it over. To be honest, the media isn't exactly my area of expertise. Hisashi would be able to answer this question much better. But to me, it seems like the media could be a double-edged sword. On the one hand, getting public opinion on your side of the case would make life significantly harder for your father, but it would also make things harder for you. The media would be hounding you for interviews and details and be invasive of your personal life. But they'll be doing the same of your father. The media has a lot more freedom than the law in terms of what they cover, but you also have a lot less control over the narrative. It's possible your father could use the money to change the narrative certain It's possible your father could use the money to change the narrative certain outlets are putting out, and you will come across as whiny brats. I think that, ultimately, the decision to use the media or keep it behind closed doors is one for you to make. But if I didn't come forward, my father might be able to just push through normal life like the changes weren't being pressed anyways, right? It's possible. Hargreaves pursed his lips, apparently not liking that idea. And what about you? Hargreaves asked, looking Aizawa's directly in the eyes. What side would you take if something like this became public? My students, obviously, he answered without hesitation. Though I'd probably try to avoid the media the most possible. Because you're an underground hero? Basically. Aizawa nodded. I'm surprised you know what that is. I like to do my research, Hargreaves said cryptically. Why all these questions? Aizawa asked. As much as we love bringing your father to justice today, he's not here right now. Your circumstances in America 200 years ago are different from what UA and Japan can offer you. Hargreaves shrugged. I think it's still a useful thought to exercise. I'd like to know what the power that will be around here can and can't do. Does this have anything to do with the project you're working on? Hargreaves' facade finally broke, shoulders tensing up. What project? I don't have a project. Aizawa raised an eyebrow, but it could have been lost under his bandages. He might have just stared Hargreaves instead. Hargreaves squirmed, but it was obvious he was trying not to. I don't have a project, and even if I did, I wouldn't come to you about it unless I was ready. And hypothetically, when would you be ready? Not yet. Aizawa hummed. Fine. But remember, we're trusting you to let us know if we can help. You don't need to do whatever this is alone. Hargreaves nodded. I'm not planning to. Good. Hargreaves sighed, stretching his arms above his head. Well, that was fun. Tell your partner, or whatever he is, that he has good taste in music. He grabs the plate with the rest of his food and teleports out of the room. Could he be any more obvious about having a project? The nature of that project worried Aizawa, though. Was the project just testing the people around him, or was he investigating on behalf of another student? And if there were another student, would Hargreaves think to take their agency into account? Aizawa needed to start looking into things. Oh my god, the whole, or your partner, or whatever he is. I love that. I love that. That is hilarious. Just like, whatever your partner, friend, whatever that is, tell him that he has good music taste. I also feel like Hisashi, I don't know if Hisashi put the old English music for 5, or because he's like, oh, I have a time-traveling American in my home. I'm feeling nostalgic. And by nostalgic, I mean I want to put some nice old-time, English songs in my radio show today. So that's how we're doing it today. Which, if so, that is hilarious. Also, my question is, put your hands up Podfics is a thing, right? Not Podfics, put your hands up radio. I just realized that the only place I've ever heard that reference is in fan fictions. Do not tell me this is like fucking Tsukuichi's quirk, where we know that Tsukuichi has a quirk and it's a truth-telling quirk, but the actual basis of the quirk has never been explicitly said. And so the whole fandom have just agreed that it's a lie detector quirk, right? And that it works by telling lies. And he could pick up on lies. But partial lies don't necessarily pick up and stuff like that. Like, all the little specifics, we have all collectively agreed. So is this another collectively agreed, like how we all collectively agreed that Aizawa and Hisashi are together in some way, shape, or form? They're either, you know, partners, or in this case, queer platonic partners? Is that how it's pronounced? Queer platonic partners? Hold up. Gotta scroll up. Okay, is it in relationships? No, it's not in relationships. It's gonna be in one of the tags. Queer platonic, queer platonic. Not partners, just queer platonic. There we go. If so, please, someone in the comments tell me, put your hands up radio. That's an actual canon thing, right? Because I've been associating it with actual canon, but now that I think about it and I sit down and think about it, I haven't seen it mentioned anywhere in the canon unless it was mentioned in Vigilantes. Which, if so, please, someone, anyone, please. I can't have another thing that is like, oh my god, I thought this was canon. It was never fucking canon. You know, there's certain aspects of the canon that I completely fucking lost because I think this is canon and then I forget it's not canon. Like, for example, I was watching or rewatching My Hero Academia the other day and I realized, oh my god, Eraser Mike isn't canon. I was so mind-boggled because I've been so focused on reading fanfiction that I completely forgot the canon. And I'm like, okay, Eraser Mike isn't canon. Izuku actually deals with his trauma way better. Or actually, no, not way better. He fucking ignores his trauma in the canon, and his trauma is overlooked all the way till season 6 when it finally comes to the forefront. But even then, it's still kind of overlooked. And it's like, oh my god. Oh my god. Is this a show I've been liking? Is this a show I've been, like, hyperfixated on for the last year? Jesus Christ. Oh my god. I like the fanfiction way better. Jesus. Okay. Point taken is, somebody, please tell me. I'm going insane here. Anyways, as always, my raindrops, make sure to eat, sleep, drink water, take your meds. Have a wonderful day or night. Link to my Discord server and socials are down in the description. Subscribe to see more of my content, and thank you so much for watching.